Good morning, welcome back to American Truck Simulator. I'm David Steele and here's my truck, and what a noisy environment I'm in right now. I am at a building site where I've just picked up a wheel loader, and we're taking this on a fairly short trip today in a Freightliner FLB. It's a different one to the one I've been using recently. I bought this one used, and because I really wanted to get my hands on a different truck so I could test the Caterpillar 3176B.
Thunder, like you've seen it a million times.
Exactly what we've got under the hood of today's truck. Let's go ahead and jump in the cabin. Right, just reset the suspension. I'm going to go ahead and get the windows closed. Should make it a little quieter in here. There we go. Okay, let's quick check the rig. So let's give it a quick tug test. Yep, I guess we are connected. So let's go ahead and make like a tree and get on out of here. I hope everyone's doing well today. So the 3476B. Now, I released the 3476A some time ago, a couple of weeks now I think, as I record this, probably closer to 3 weeks by the time you're watching this video. And it's been a lot of fun piecing together the 10-litre cat engines. There are a few of them. In fact, there are a very good number. I think there's 5. One of which is not yet in the Steel Productions engine pack, but it may be at some point. Let's put stage 2, or is it stage 1 or stage 2? It's like the side lights. Alright, anyway. Right, so let's, this is effectively a test of the 3176B. I am deliberately feathering the throttle here. We've got a 9-speed transmission paired up to this cat today. Let's see if it changes up and uses first gear anytime soon. I need to go a little quicker. Yeah, it's whipsawing a bit. Okay. I can get a bit more fine-tuning, but I can work that out of the definition. Although, I'm saying that, this is the 300 horsepower version of the 3176B, but this is the 1050 foot-pound of torque variant. So it's not particularly torquey. Now, we only have a 34,000 pound cargo behind me today, but it is on a fairly chunky trailer. So I'm getting everyone's way, and it's also pretty long as well. Let's go ahead and get that window down. I'll stick my head out the side, and I'll show you what I mean. Let's see, we out of this guy's way yet? No, not really. I mean, I can technically turn right on a red, but with this length trailer, it's I'm going to get a fine if I'm not careful. I'm just going to go. It'll be fine, right? I mean, what's the worst that happens? I'm going to give myself a lot of extra space here, and did it tight. Excuse me again. What gatherings out here today on lawns? What's this with cars on lawns going on? Some kind of argument? Is it a HOA committee meeting? Who knows? Right, that's got my window up. So yeah, got a 9-speed Eaton today. We're using a 411 final drive, so it's about 1400 revs at 55, maybe 1375 I think it works out, and that's with 22.5-inch rims. So it's not massively short in the gearing department, and it should work fairly well with this engine. And I'm a little hesitant because 1050 foot-pounds of torque, not a lot. 300 horsepower, it's okay, but it has an 1800 RPM governor, and it produces its peak torque from 1100 or 1200 RPM. So we've got a sort of 600 RPM power band. Now, that's not horrendous, don't get me wrong, but there's not a lot of leeway with a 9-speed. So we're going to be revving this thing quite hard. In fact, I say we. It's actually in automated mode because this is testing how well the transmission is going to shift for me. So we've identified one issue, which is the whip soaring at slow speed. That can be difficult to iron out. With the lower powered engines especially, and with fairly few gears, there's really not there's really not that much that you can do some of the time, just depending on the cargo. This trailer's probably close to 20,000 pounds. Let's go ahead and turn my indicator off, I think. So we may be looking at sort of 55,000 pound total cargo weight behind me. So gross weight, maybe 70,000. No, maybe not. Maybe 80. It's a pretty heavy cargo for a fairly lightweight engine, and I'm deliberately provoking it by sort of lifting off and seeing if it shifts up prematurely, and it hasn't so far, which is good. It's just the slow speed stuff. And I know I've also talked about this as well on the channel. When you first put in an engine and a transmission, it can take a little bit of time before everything sort of figures out where it can shift, and that's that sort of calibration routine that the truck goes through. You throw on a cargo and it does change the calculations a little bit. Well, either way, you're going to have to give it a bit more than a feather to move off here, or we're just going to get nowhere, pretty much. Let's see. Go. Okay. Yeah, that's all right, and it doesn't need to use the full revs in the lower gears. And I say full revs, I don't expect it to be changing up at the governor, but it's sort of aiming for 1100 through the low to mid-range. Not going to use cruise control just yet. I'm just going to let this thing gently waft up to 50. Oh, with a nice metallic blue color today. Quite like this shade. There's a lot of colors I quite like, but the blue, sort of deep, luxurious blue. I don't know quite what I'd call it. Wonderful bridge we're crossing here today, and difficult to sort of see that much into it, and it's like some trees, something growing underneath there. Yay, we got double back on ourselves, that's always fun. So coming up after this stoplight, we're going to basically effectively veer off right. Well, not veer off, we're going to take a slip road to the right and loop back on ourselves. So do a 270-degree turn. Now there is another change in today's video, and that is, as is quite normal for me, I'm using lossless scaling. But I'm able to now record the output of lossless scaling. So up until now, whenever I've used lossless scaling, what you've seen is the frames that the game generates and not what's presented to the screen. Well, there's a couple of changes you can make to OBS and lossless scaling that means that you can record it. And the two clues as to what's going on. One is that the video should be that little bit smoother, but you are going to see a little bit of jank every now and again. And secondly, there's the little frame rate display at the very top left of the screen. Now it's pretty small, and I run quite a high resolution monitor, so it may not be that obvious on YouTube depending on the resolution that you're watching this at. What you would be seeing is one number that says 30 and one number that says 60. Well, 30 is the frames that the game is producing, frames per second I should say, and 60 is the output to the monitor. So I'm using lossless scaling at times two frame generation, so every other frame is generated by the program. You can run it in ×3 or ×4 or X3 or X4 modes. X4 can be a little janky. And by janky, the program it's got some sort of clever AI system that I'm pretty certain has been used to generate an idea of what should be next. And if it's raining, you've got the wipers on, you've got various changes taking place in the game. It's going to get that wrong sometimes. So the lossless scaling basically extrapolates what's happening between frames to give you what would be next on the screen, so it's not perfect. It does make the game a lot smoother. Most of the time you really couldn't tell that there's something going on between the game engine and the game. Now there was a pretty chunky section of lag, and that doesn't happen more or less with lossless scaling. Does make a difference, at least for my system, is when it was last rebooted. That might be a video to put that together, but after a fresh reboot, the game runs beautifully smooth, and give it a little bit of time. In my case, it's been nearly 6 days since I've restarted the machine. You can tell the ATS does not run as smoothly as it does otherwise. Now there could be a whole bunch of reasons for this, but likely, well, I guess the reason is Windows, or Microsoft Windows. Thanks Windows. But within that, you're going to have programs that have maybe run and kept resources that there's a bit more going on that the system has to keep track of, and the surefire way to resolve those is just to give it a restart. So it clears everything that's not running. You can get programs that can flush memory and do clever things like that, and yeah, they'll probably help, but if you want to be able to measure the difference in speed, a restart on a modern computer doesn't take very long at all. Give it a reboot, try it again, off you go. But as you see, most of the time I'm getting 60 frames per second, and I'm more than happy with the result. It really does feel like you can pay your $7 and buy extra frames per second. Now, as for this 3176B, yeah, it took a while to get up to 55, and I'm not going to attempt to go 65. Gearing wise, yeah, I was about right. 1400 revs at 55, give or take, and it puts the cat pretty much in its power band, I would say. There's a little bit of reserve if we come to a gradient, but only a little, and that's reflected with its slow acceleration. We're actually coming to a gradient, so I bet you we start to lose speed, but let's see. I'm expecting to lose speed. Yeah, so we're losing a little bit of speed. And we'll probably have to change down at sort of 1150 RPM if we get to that engine speed, but I think we're going to make it up the hill just fine. Okay. The 3176B range runs from 275. Every 25 horsepower you have a different variant, up to 350. So you don't have the 250, I think this 230 3176A version. We don't have that in the B. I could put it in, I'm sure that they did exist, but finding information on them has been, well, I haven't found information on the lesser ratings. What I've tried to do is give the 3176B a subtle difference in sound and a subtle difference in how it feels. I've tweaked a couple of settings. It really doesn't feel that different, but I have to say the torque curve appears to be similar, and so I don't really expect to feel much of a difference there. The biggest difference, as I understand, is that the B and the C versions of the 3176 were supposed to be a lot more reliable. They ironed out some of the original kinks with the first generation engine. But I will say though, having a 300 horsepower engine with 1050 foot-pounds of torque is a little different from, hey, come on David, stay in your lane, is a little less than the 3176A. I think that's 1150 at 300 horsepower, and you can tell it's not as not quite as performant, but you've got the 325 and you've got the 350 horsepower variants if you wanted a bit more go. And maybe the 300 horsepower was really just to say you had 300 horsepower, but the torque is the same as the 275. I'm getting some noticeable jank here. Game is producing 24 frames per second, 24, 25, 23 now, so I wonder what's going on. Oh. And we'll say this, when the frame rate does drop below its frame cap, which is 30, there's quite a big impact. And it makes sense, given what we're asking that the loss of scaling to do, and that is basically generate frames. Well, if you're only getting 20 frames a second, it'll bump it up to 60, but it doesn't have that much to go on. Yeah, a bit of jank. Maybe it's loading assets in the background, I don't know. There's no way to easily tell that. Okay, well, there's a lot more buildings, of course, in the environment that we're in right now, and buildings do make a big difference to version 1.5 of the game. Hey, the light went to green, that's a result. And I guess a bit more traffic. Where are you going, Freightliner? Thank you. Cruise on, see if it takes me up to 35. When you use cruise control, you stop the adaptive shift pattern from having any impact on the gear shift, so you get the minimum engine speed that it will let you do. Let's try second stage, first stage engine brake. Yeah, okay, there's a difference there. Use the left-hand lane because I will need to in a jiffy. So let's tuck in behind this Camaro and set ourselves up for turning left just up here. Scott's engagement torque seems absolutely fine. I'm happy with that. This is quite a nice view as well. Sort of bumper cam. We've got the roof camera as well, and now we see some of the cabin movement here. Jump back in a cabin. I gotta manage this turn.
Left, and then turn left.
I have all of the detail and quality settings for the visual set up to the highest that they will go, because my limit with ATS is the CPU, and having those quality settings cranked up makes minimal difference to the CPU. The GPU laughs at 30 frames per second, and it can, by calculation, if the CPU could feed it enough data, it should be able to turn out frames somewhere around about 80 frames per second. 80 to 120, just depending on some weird details that I'm not entirely clear what it depends on, but did I judge that right? I think I did. I didn't go over the sidewalk, the pavement. Good. Because driving through an inner city area, or a downtown, I think is the American term, with a trailer as big as Arkansas is not always fun. But having a cab over makes a big difference. Reason being there's a cab over is generally a shorter truck, but the steering axle is typically right at the very front of the truck, and the truck length is shorter. The steery pointy bit is... Oh, let's actually stop for this. Okay, there we go. There was a pretty tough braking movement, but nice if I didn't get it fine. Let's see, what else have we got going on in the city? So we've got some pedestrians on the left. We've got like maybe a pedestrian crossing. Oh, maybe not. Past the shadow in the distance. I thought I saw something there. Let's see if we can take a look. Let's zoom in on that area. What am I looking at? Nothing. A little bit of flicker here and there on the graphics. Not that many pedestrians around. Some sunflowers, if we like sunflowers. I'm gonna get my windows down. There's a little building site just up here. It's not my favorite building site in ATS. That belongs to, well, I think there's a second one now, but there's a skyscraper construction area just north of the Dallas city center. Pull off, I think it's Highway 75. Take the frontage road, and you end up dropping down into the foundations of the skyscraper. It's pretty cool. Plus, you get there at the right time of day, and you look a certain direction, and you see the Dallas city skyline, which I'm familiar with this because it's close to where I live. And I mean close in Texas terms, where close in Texas terms is the other side of the country in UK terms. It's about an hour away. Okay. Pedestrians on the left. Oh, they're looking at museum-y type stuff. But as cool as that is, we have to negotiate our way into this location. So this is going to be... Oh, missed. This could be a little tight. I'd like to not go up on the pavement. So we will do the whole backing up on a busy city... Backing up on a city street. That'll do. Let's see, did we manage to not go over the... Maybe.
You have arrived at your destination.
Thanks, Doug.
Route guidance is now finished.
So I think we managed to avoid the pavement. We went over a bit of rubble and stuff. Oh, maybe. Let's check in with the foreman. Where would you like it? And... okay. How hard can that be, right? The answer to that question is never as easy as you anticipate, right? But we'll see if we manage to make this this doable. I think we did. Okay, I'm actually happy with that. That looks like it's fairly straight. Okay, well, look at that. Right, well, that just about wraps up today's video. I'm going to stick on and see what my mileage was with this trip, but hopefully you enjoyed that. Shut that down. Disconnect the trailer and let's take a look. So yeah, the 3476B is likely to be out by the time you're watching this, but only for a few days. It's coming with a whole host of fairly minor tweaks to other engines. I'm adjusting a few torque curves. Managed to include AdBlue or exhaust fluid on the 3176A. Oopsie. So I will be fixing that when this engine gets released. And all likelihood, some new variants of the Detroit Diesel Series 60 12 litre. 1998 version of those, but chances are they're already updated in the mod. Right, well, thanks so much everyone, hope you had a good one, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.